to the All Around Joe podcast. We optimize your human performance from my personal experience as an athlete, coach, and all-around self-improvement junkie. On this edition of the All Around Joe podcast, I have Dr. Mariza Snyder, who is an expert on essential oils. Now, I've never had somebody who talks about essential oils or who knows or an expert about essential oils on the show before. So I'm really excited to talk with Dr. Mariza Snyder about it because, as you know, I'm all about self-healing, about very natural products, about doing things that are different from what the drug companies are pushing on us. So essential oils, Dr. Mariza Snyder is an expert on them. She is a multi-time author, so she really knows her stuff on essential oils, and I'm excited to get to chat with her today. So without further ado, here we go on the podcast. This is allaroundjoe.com/173 if you want to pick up the show notes today for this podcast, and I'm going to have a bunch of links to Dr. Mariza Snyder's information. So let's do this. All right, Mariza, how's it going today?
It's going good. How are you?
I am awesome. Tell us where you're at today.
I am in, rainy San Diego today. That's where I'm at.
I didn't even realize it rained in San Diego.
I had no idea. I feel like I've completely been, lied to. We've only been here a year. It's rained twice. So, but it's good. I know everyone's really happy to get some rain. So that's good.
Yeah. And actually, I was actually, being a little facetious in that I've been to San Diego a lot for going to school down there. And I remember the first time it rained, I actually ran outside and laid next to the pool in the rain. So that, because I, being from Seattle, I was like, holy smokes, it's been a year since I saw rain.
Right? Oh my goodness. Yes, absolutely. I feel like, it's when it rains here, it's like Armageddon. Like everyone's like, it's a big old snowstorm because no one knows what to do themselves.
Totally. It's great. We can talk about this for a long, long time, but let's talk more about you. What's your story? How did you grow up? Where did you grow up? How did you get from, that to
here?
Essential oils and what you're doing today? Yeah.
So, I grew up in California, all over California. And when I was really young, I had a series of head traumas that led to chronic migraine pain for 15 years. And it ruled my life. I missed school activities. I missed slumber parties. I missed tests. And I was one of those students who really didn't like to miss tests. I was a high achiever. The idea of missing tests really freaked me out, especially in high school and then even into college. And I was told at a very young age, I want to say 10 or 11, 12, that this was my lot in life. I was going to live like this. And it broke my heart. But I had my meds, I had my drugs. And if I could catch the migraine, then I could function. So that was really all my life's purpose was like, how do I beat this thing so that I didn't get them? So this goes on for 15 years. I became a biochemist because I want to go off to med school to go and help children like myself. I couldn't have been the only one, but I just knew I missed out on so much, and I didn't want other kids to feel like they were missing out on so much. I felt like I lost a lot. It didn't cost me a lot of money to be this sick. It probably cost my family money for me to be sick like this, but it felt like I always ask people, like, what does that cost you? And it felt like a lot to me. But when I was 24, I was a biochemist at a lab, and a good friend of mine or a coworker had told me about this functional practitioner. And she's like, listen, I think that team could have something for you. And I was just like, I've been down this road. I've been told there's nothing I can do about it. This is it. This is what I get to deal with. And I went because it was on my drive home. It was a 45-minute drive every day. It's Bay Area, San Francisco, Oakland kind of thing. And so it was like, well, I got to do this drive and I should just stop off at this doctor's office. And in 3 months' time, I was migraine free after 15 years. Changed everything, mind blown, paradigm shifted. I was like, what? Like, this isn't possible. And I changed everything. My direction in terms of how I wanted to treat in medicine, how I wanted to take care of people, the idea of the body healing. I just couldn't it was mind blowing. So I really kind of shifted gears, really focused on more holistic type of treating people, how to practice with a lot of migraine patients, and ultimately ended up having to practice with a lot of women who are dealing with hormone issues, because so often women get migraines with hormones because of the imbalance that happens. We don't really know exactly how it's going down, but we just know that there's a connection there. I myself had my second kind of health crisis. I had hormonal issues, probably because of that type A personality that I was kind of drove myself into the ground and drove myself into hormone chaos. But luckily, I knew at that point that I could get well. So I knew I could fix it. But I still feel like hormones at the time, even a decade ago, was kind of taboo. Women, it was just our normality. We suffer. That's how I feel like women feel like about themselves. Like everyone first, we'll take care of this hot mess later. But I realized I was getting those women at 40 and 50 years old in my office, and they were kind of at a point of no return. So how do we fix that? So that really became kind of realizing my own second big level struggle, and seeing a lot of women were struggling like I was. It kind of transitioned me into, big part nutrition, a big part supplementation, like anything we could do to really, really help women get their bodies back on track. And around that time is when I discovered essential oils, and I started leveraging those as ways to create powerful self-care for women, and also ways to give them instant wins. Because when you're in the throes of being sick, hormone sick or whatever sick that may be, and you're exhausted and you're frustrated, like sometimes we just need something that's going to work and that feels right and feels good. So the oils were just this natural fit that felt a lot better than drinking green juice and green smoothies. Let me tell you. I could get someone to do an oil before I could get them to drink a green smoothie. And so,
Really?
Yes, absolutely. And that was basically, if we fast forward to today, voila, here we are. Now I'm really just supporting women in that way through good lifestyle, good healthy habits, and the use of these beautiful chemical constituents.
Super interesting. And was it hard for you to make the transition from traditional medicine to where you are now, or did you just see the light? I mean, I talk to a lot of people who are on different wavelengths as it comes from traditional medicine to where we're headed now, it seems like, with more of this holistic stuff.
Again, I was really young when this happened. I was 24 and, still very impressionable. I think, gosh, when I was 24, I thought I knew everything. Here I am, this little scientist, and then you get you're like you said, everything, someone just spins you on your head and you're just like, whoa, what is this? So I really had a chance to transition. I felt like it was a pretty seamless transition. And when you're in that much pain for that many years and then you're not, there's no words to really describe that. Besides, I was just like, what? I forget this noise over here. I'm going this way. And it was the best decision I made. A lot of my family, I got a lot of resistance, definitely, because they were like, well, this was the direction you were going. We liked that direction. But I was like, but look at what happened for me. And so it was the best decision I ever made, because it really aligns with my philosophy around our ability to heal. I think it's true. Our bodies want to be back in balance. Our bodies want to work for us. And there's a lot of ways to get our bodies, to do exactly that.
Yeah, absolutely. And so what was it that what exactly were you taking or doing in order to get rid of the pain for you and get rid of the headaches and whatnot?
Absolutely. So a part of it, at the time, I didn't realize, I go back in hindsight and think about all of those experiences. I was dealing with hormones then too. I just didn't know it. Like I said, it was kind of just this thing that we just over here. So nutrition was big. So I did a big elimination. I was cutting out things like dairy, grains, sugar, alcohol, things like that. So all of that had to go. They were just wanted to see, is this anything related to something gut related? They had me on supplements, and I can't recall all the supplements today. I know that I was on probiotics. I know that I was on digestive enzymes. So again, working on the gut. But then again, this was a full spectrum practice. So they had upper cervical practitioners. So I was under upper cervical care, which is a very specialized type of chiropractic care. And let's see what else. And I was under acupuncture. So they kind of just threw the gamut at me. And so it wasn't really clear exactly what 100%. I know that the upper cervical care was huge because things were really thrown off due to the trauma I had. And so it was really yucky in there. So that was a big part of it. But it was kind of a culmination of like, there's a lot of things not right here. Let's do this multifaceted approach.
Okay. And so like, how did you take that, or how are you taking that now, and how is it moving towards the essential oils, and where do they all fit into this whole equation?
Absolutely. Well, initially, I felt like food was really the big game change. I became obsessed with food. I wrote a bunch of books with food, and I loved it. But we all know, and I will say to this day, food is foundational. You want to get well. You want to support your liver. You want your brain to function better. You want to reduce your inflammation. Food is key. I mean, you're either fueling it or you're killing it with food, in terms of your body. And so I believe that that's always going to be foundational. But for me, I was taking so many drugs. I was taking so many over-the-counter medications for the pain back in the day. And and I know my patients were coming in at the same time, taking a lot of meds for sleep, for fatigue, for see what else were they taking it for pain, a lot of pain management, those things. And I was looking for something else. And what I was a big believer too, is I never wanted my patients to suffer. Like if they, like for instance, migraines, even if we had protocols that were designed to get people well, if they had a migraine, I'm like, take your drugs, because I didn't want someone, I'm like, don't take those. Now that you're on my protocol, I'm going to need you to suffer through that 2-day migraine. That's terrible. So I was looking for something else, looking for someone who was dealing with colds and flus because their cortisol levels were shot. I was looking for someone to support their respiratory system. And so a good friend of mine introduced me to the oils. I was that girl who was immune system compromised because I had so much stress. I got sick on average 5 to 7 times a year, if not more. It really depended. And it was ridiculous. Like I was so sick of I was so sick and tired of being sick and tired. And so was my friend. She was like, I'm tired of this. Like, I'm over you getting so sick. I think I have something, because I was doing elderberry syrup. I was doing vitamin C. I was drinking nasty tinctures. I was doing the whole bit. I was doing yoga, all the things. And yet I was still getting sick because we had a family practice. So kids would come in and then they would generously give me whatever they had. And so she gave me this oil that was like a combination of rosemary, eucalyptus, wild orange, clove, all these great oils that are great, not only great antivirals, antibacterials, but they're also immune system boosting. She's like, use this. And I was like, all right, because it was like, I think it was October that year. And I was like, it's coming. The wave of illness, it's heading my way. And I started using this oil, and I didn't even know what to do with it. I was putting it everywhere I could. I was drinking it in my tea. I was diffusing it in the office, and I was overusing it. I'm not going to pretend like I wasn't, because I didn't know what to do. I was like putting it all over, But I did not get sick for 3.5 years from the day I started using that oil. And I have only been sick maybe 3 times in the last 6.5 years. So that was the game change for me. I got through that fall without getting sick, and I was like, what is this? What did you put in this? So that was kind of the transition. I was like, oh my gosh, what are these things? What are these oils? And what else can they do? If they can prevent colds and flus, what else have they got for me? And I started recommending them for headaches and for back pain and for insomnia. I mean, everything. I was like, here, try this. Let's see what happens. I had a lot of guinea pigs in the office, and everyone was down. I mean, no one wanted to go to Long's or Walgreens to buy a bunch of over-the-counter stuff. And that I began to realize that these beautiful plant medicines, these plant therapies, had this profound way of creating a lot of health and wellness, but not in a way that was damaging us. And so that was really exciting to me. And then I started, it just kind of took off like that. So I did more and more research on the oils. I really then I was like, well, can they support all these women with hormone issues? And sure enough, they could. And so that's when I started recommending them to my patients for hormone problems.
Okay. What are essential oils?
Great question. Yeah. So essential oils are volatile chemical constituents. They come from all over the plant, depending on the plant. So the leaves, the stems, the barks, the flowers, the seeds, they come from all over. It depends. Different plants have different types of oils on them. Now, oils come, or plants, as we all know, that come from all over the world. So, you may get your cardamom from Guatemala, you get your jasmine from India, you get your frankincense from Somalia, you can get your melissa and your lavender and your clary sage from Bulgaria. I'm just throwing some out there. So they come from all over the world, and all these oils have different chemical constituents. For instance, let's take a lemon oil or a wild orange. Let's take wild orange. So wild orange is known as the oil of abundance. It's like pure, happy bliss. It's an instant energizer bunny. It smells so divine. I always tell people, I dare you to stay angry. Stay mad after you breathe in that oil. It's almost impossible. Like, that's how profound that oil is. And what it's made up of is monoterpenes. And one specific monoterpene is known as limonene. And limonene is not only phenomenal for killing germs, it's great for boosting neurotransmitters like dopamine and serotonin. And it's also phenomenal for helping to mitigate inflammation in the body. It's like a super win-win. Just breathe that oil and it's doing all those things at once. So that was really what was so exciting to me about that oil, like that, just wild orange, for instance. It's just one. So that's what we're leveraging. We're leveraging these beautiful chemical constituents. Some oils have 5, some oils have a dozen, some oils have 100, and then they go in and they have the ability to clean up receptor sites. They have the ability to help repair DNA. They've got the ability to shift your mood. They can help peristalsis. They can stop gut bugs. I mean, there's all kinds of things they can do.
Wow. And so do all essential oils act in the same way in the same part of the body, or are they all unique?
It really just depends on that chemistry. So different chemistry is going to do. So for instance, linalool acetate, that is in clary sage, it's in jasmine, it's in lavender. It's a really calming essential oil, and what's so wonderful about it is it's great for sleep. It's great for reducing stress levels. We know that it helps to reduce cortisol levels. So amazing for people dealing with chronic stress. And we know cortisol creates all kinds of other problems. It is phenomenal for calming the skin as well. And so there's a lot of benefits. So I know that, things like clary sage, jasmine, and lavender, in some instances, they could be interchangeable, but then there's a lot of other ways that they are very different. So, but if, let's say I have really bad flight anxiety. I don't know why. I fly a lot. It's not fair.
I get it.
I'm on a plane in like 2 days. And so I'm always on a plane. And so I've got my oils. I got my little, I'll show you. It's right here. I always have it right in my oil pack. And in here is I got my anxiety oils, right? And I know, but let's say I forgot one, like the one I love. Well, luckily I know that if I don't have that one, I most likely have something similar. So like, let's say the combination for anxiety is lavender and vetiver, let's just say. And yeah, that can be, yes. So let's say I have that pre-made up and it's my flight, like save yourself flight blend, and let's say I'm looking in my bag and I'm like, oh my God, it's not here, and so then, then more anxiety ensues, right? When your oil isn't in there. But then I just go and grab another one. Like maybe I have clary sage in here, or maybe I have wild orange. I do know that those are both really calming, and they can help support that anxious moment. So they can be similar, but again, they all have their own unique, distinctive properties.
Okay, and how about the differences in how you ingest them?
Great question.
What's happening when you do different things, when you're breathing it versus taking it in your mouth, or
Yeah, absolutely. So the most easiest, the most effective, the safest, I mean, for the most part, they're pretty safe, but I mean, can you overdo it? Yes. And, can you put oregano on your arm and that's going to burn? So like, you got to be mindful about some of these oils. So when it comes to the safest and easiest ways to use them, it's going to be aromatic. So either diffusing them in a diffuser, it's the easiest way to use them is diffusing them in a diffuser. Or you could take a drop on your palms like this, breathe it in. And what happens when you breathe in an oil, like I have wild orange right here. And what happens when you breathe in this oil, which is literally my happy oil, I just love it, is that not only is that oil going to go straight, no holds barred into the limbic brain, because our sense of smell is our number one survival sense. It is like hundreds of times more powerful than any other sense of vision, sense of touch. But our sense of smell will save our lives. So when it comes to breathing something in, instead of modulating it through the brainstem or the thalamus, your brain's like, bring it on in. So it goes straight into the limbic brain, and that is your stranger danger center. Like that is where we are figuring out, like, who is that dude behind me? Like, what's going on there? That's where we house memory, emotion, and our entire hormone system. Like our master control system is right in the limbic brain. So that is profound. You get those oils right up in there, big things can happen. But then by breathing it in, those chemical constituents are so tiny. They go into the lungs, they go into the alveoli, and bam, they are in the bloodstream in less than 60 seconds upon contact. So they're already going to work. Maybe your liver needs some support. Maybe your blood cells need some support. You know, it really just depends on what the body really needs. It's kind of like eating a blueberry. I always ask people, like, what does a blueberry do? What does a blueberry do? Like, what's the benefits of blueberries? Like, we know it's great for memory. I always hear, like, eat blueberries for memory. You know, you always hear about that. But the thing of it is that blueberries are made up of polyphenols and minerals and vitamins and fiber. And then it goes into the system, it gets digested, it gets broken down, and then your body gets to decide what it wants to do with it. Your liver's like, I need a piece of that action. Your brain's like, you know what? I could use some blueberries today. So the same kind of thing with the oils too, is your body's just kind of figuring out what it needs. So you may be using an oil for something very specific, but those chemical constituents are in the body. They're going to work. So it's really interesting, like following the chemistry of oils in the body, and we're learning more and more every day. So the fastest way to get them into the system is going to be by breathing them in. The next way is topical. So let's say I ate pizza yesterday. Let's just say I didn't, because I'm on a detox. And I know I'm not supposed to eat pizza. And my stomach is like, what did you just do to me? So like oils like ginger, fennel, peppermint, those are all, not only will they quell some of that, the gas, the bloating, but also the smooth muscles that are experiencing that discomfort, they can relax smooth muscles. So you put a blend, like a combination of ginger, fennel, and peppermint, and within 5 minutes flat, that discomfort, that awful feeling you're having will be gone. So topical is really powerful as well. So I always tell people, area of concern. You've got neck pain or you've got headaches, you're going to be applying it. Like, this is my headache blend right in here. So you would be applying it wherever that issue is, you know. If you've got knee issues or you've got respiratory or you've got sinus stuff, right? You're going to put the oils where the problem is. And because you're applying them topically to that area, they get into the bloodstream, they get into that area of concern pretty quickly, and they go to work. So like for moms, for families, even for us, like we have no drugs in the house. Our number one first aid is oils first. And then if that doesn't work, then we know we have other options. So you come to my house, you ain't going to find Tylenol. You're not going to find Tums. You're not going to find any of that. You're going to find oils. And we got an oil for everything. So that's how we operate here. Last but not least is internal. Why would anyone even take oils internally? And let me tell you, a lot of the oils on the market, man, they're not, it depends on what the company's doing with them. So you got to be really careful. You always want to look for an oil that's got there's a little supplement label on there. So I know I can add wild orange to whipped coconut milk or to green smoothies, or we do a lot with this one. This is a great flavor booster, or like organic hot chocolate with wild orange. It's just so delicious. So we use that as a flavor booster as well, but there's a lot of oranges on the market and they'll even say, do not consume this oil. So I don't know what they did with it, but I don't want to know. So you want to make sure that you're using a good oil, but it really depends. Like if you can stabilize blood sugar levels with essential oils like cinnamon. You can support gut microbiome with oils like fennel and peppermint and ginger, clove, rosemary. These are all great oils for that. You can help decrease inflammation in the body with oils like copaiba, frankincense, yarrow. So it just really depends on what the purpose of it. You know, I have all my grandparents are alive. And both my grandpas are really struggling right now. One's got cancer and one's got neurological degeneration. And they're older. You know, look, they're my grandparents, for goodness sakes, right? And so frankincense is a big oil for both of my grandpas. And so I tend to stock up on frankincense and send it their way. one grandpa uses it because he's got numbness in his hands and he's just struggling in that way. And then my other grandpa's using it for cellular support while he's going through chemo. And so, for different reasons, that oil is going to really support both of those men in my life. And they use it religiously and have found great benefit from it. So it just really depends on the purpose for internal usage. I don't want people just willy-nilly just drinking oils all the time. I want there to be a real reason for why we do it.
Hey guys, Joe here. I just want to take a quick break in the action to tell you about something really cool that I've been working on. It is programming that I am writing for you. It's over at thegetbetterproject.com. So if you head over to thegetbetterproject.com, you can sign up for programming that includes stuff that you could do with all of the equipment. So in the gym, in your garage gym, or, if you're hauling around 400 pounds in a van like I am, you could do that programming. And I also have a body weight version, all right? So it's the same style of programming, but it's done if you don't have any equipment available to you. So you could do it in your living room or whatever you may have available to you. And I'm also going to be writing a kettlebell version, because a lot of times it's really easy to just throw a kettlebell in your car, or have a kettlebell rather than having all of that equipment, and you can get great workouts with 1 to 2 kettlebells. I usually program them for just having one because I usually have one. So I'm trying to let you guys know what I am doing to stay in awesome shape with just having a kettlebell. So head over to thegetbetterproject.com and you will find a way to sign up for the programming. It's daily, Monday through Saturday programming. We usually take Sunday off, even though I only recommend that you're doing, 5 days a week maximum. So I program for every day just in case you didn't have the ability to get one of the days in and you didn't want to go back and look at it. So I'm trying to take care of all of that for you. There's videos for each of the programs so that you can see what the movement should look like. I'm trying to make it as comprehensive as possible for you. And if you sign up, you will also be able to interact with me personally on the private Facebook group. So head over to thegetbetterproject.com and I would love to start programming for you today. Okay. And how does someone usually find themselves needing an oil, or like how do they know when they're like, oh shoot, I'm out of balance and I need something that's hopefully not going to their doctor and getting prescribed a bunch of pills?
Good question. Yeah. I mean, I think there is definitely a bit of a learning curve of knowing which ones it is. So I've got books on it. I took care of that. I solved that problem.
Perfect.
I got you. I got everybody. No, I think that's a great question. I think it's really knowing the oils. Like, for instance, if I had a top 5 list, it would be peppermint, lavender, frankincense, tea tree, and lemon. I think that that's pretty much everyone's go-to first aid. You can make over your green cleaning. You can disinfect things. You can kind of deal with, like, when I think of peppermint, I think of things like headaches, digestive support, respiratory support, pain and inflammation. I mean, that oil is such a jack of all trades. Like, if you ever catch me on the street, you ever see me, you ask me, you're like, where's that? You got a peppermint? And I'm going to be like, I do. So I always have a peppermint oil on me. I always have a lavender oil on me. So, because those 2 oils can really solve so many issues. Like, we were I forget where we were, probably in Mexico about 9 months ago. And mosquitoes love me, like nobody else, like only me.
Too.
Yeah. And so I have a bug repellent that I use for mosquitoes in case someone slips past me, or like the bug repellent wears off and I didn't realize it wore off. Lavender oil will knock that sting out in a couple seconds. Like, I am always just rolling lavender over mosquito bites, and you'll watch it just shrink like it was never there. It's so cool. So that I love lavender for that. I can even use my little lavender roller just in case. It's like a spot on, you think someone gets hurt, you're just like, here, let me just roll some lavender on it. So I mean, you'd have to do a little bit of research, I would say, to know. But I always say, when in doubt, if anything calming, skin calming, mood calming, sleep calming, lavender is your go-to oil. Anything cooling, you want to cool down, a sore knee, you want to cool down the digestive system, you want to support airways, it's going to be something like a peppermint. So it just kind of really, really depends. And you don't really need to have a lot of oils to make a big difference in your family's health and to really create some solutions. I don't travel with 50 oils. I travel with like 10, and so I don't need, and that may also seem like a lot to people, I understand, but we really do need to travel with 10 oils everywhere we go. But it's kind of like the bare necessities, so anything that pops up, we're prepared for any little emergency.
Cool. Let's talk about hormones. It sounds like you're an expert in the hormones. First of all, how does somebody detect when their hormones are getting out of balance?
The second you feel like a hot mess. No, I'm kidding. So I'm kidding. So there are key indicators. Now, if you're looking, normally so often women are like, something isn't right. I don't feel right. They're exhausted. They're not sleeping throughout the night. They've got crazy cravings. They're putting on weight for what seems like no reason whatsoever. Their PMS symptoms are getting worse. They got fibrocystic breasts. So like there's just things that are not, brain fog is happening. Their stress resilience is gone. Like anyone could say anything at any time and bam, So those are the types of things that usually women are like, something isn't right. I don't feel right. And that's when it's really a good idea to go get tested. Now, my favorite definitive test, and you can order this because unfortunately, a lot of primary doctors, even OBGYNs are not ordering it. So I apologize. We're just not there yet. We're really not there for women's health where we need to be. I don't know how we're in like 2018 and I have to say that, but it's true. So the Dutch test. And the cool thing about it is that you can order it. You can do it at home. You would need someone to interpret those results, though. And there's a lot of functional practitioners out there that can interpret those results, but that's going to be the definitive. Not only will it show you what levels are going on, but it'll show you how those hormones are being metabolized. How are you using them in the system is really just as important as knowing what levels they are. So that would be the big indicator. Look at a lot of those reproductive hormones across the board, including your survival hormones, your adrenal driven hormones as well. So that's kind of where we would start.
Do you recommend that people when they hit a certain age that they go ahead and get that testing done first and foremost, or do you actually wait for them to feel off?
And that is a great question. We're seeing younger and younger women struggling with hormone issues. Usually it's around 40 where things start to shift. Right, we start to see a kind of like a roller coaster of things. Our hormones are beginning to, because it's a natural progression that we do lose hormones over time. We are going to lose estrogen and progesterone over time. It's just how do we manage that with ease and grace? However, what we're finding with a lot of stress, not even just perceived stress, but chemical stress, physical stresses, that we're finding that we're throwing our hormones off. I always have to tell people that our hormones are really just trying to catch up with the lifestyle that we're living. That's their job, is all of our hormones are just working with how we operate. And so if things are going awry, even in our 20s or even early 30s, like it happened for me, that's really a good time to get checked. I mean, I think it's worth checking, around 40 years old, just to make sure everything's in alignment, that you're kind of, but usually the cool thing about your hormones and your body in general is there's a lot of things that you can do that don't necessarily, you don't necessarily need to get tested to start making changes. Does that make sense?
Yep. Yeah. And what kind of changes when somebody figures out that they have some sort of an imbalance, like let's say their adrenal glands are not doing so well or whatnot, how do they attack that with these oils? And what's going to happen? And what's the timeline as well? Because I know that there's a lot of adrenal fatigue type stuff that goes around, and, taking a lot of time off to let your body recover. All of that.
Absolutely. Well, what we're really finding is not really the adrenals, because your adrenals are kind of like the receivers of information that are then just doing their job. What we're finding is it's not necessarily an adrenal issue. It's really a brain issue. It's the perception of that. And so in particular, it's called the HPA axis, the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. So it's the relaying of that information and that feedback loop that's constantly like, oh, no, there's a really bad person behind us. We got to do something about it. Let's go into survival mode. Well, your body can't distinguish that from you're running late to that meeting. You're about to miss that flight. Your body doesn't know the difference between the two of those. So it's really about kind of figuring out how we can damper that particular system, that HPA axis system. Because like for me, even when I've had a really terrible cortisol levels and things have been off, my adrenals are just, they're fine. They're humming. They're like, your adrenals are great. They're doing their job. So it's never usually the adrenals. It's usually what's happening inside of in the limbic brain. So what oils can do. So what's so great about oils, and I just want to preface with the fact that I feel like one of the biggest precursors to hormonal imbalance is really the stress that we're receiving, the way that we're living our life. And so cortisol, because it's the main survival hormone and it's running the show. It's like the bad boss who keeps dumping papers on your desk right when you're about to leave work at 5 p.m. That is cortisol. It is like, you all need to get to work. And because that's its job, because the most primary thing of our human bodies, of this species, is to survive. And to be to be successful biologically, you've got to pass down your genes 2 generations. It's your body's only 2 really directives. It's 1, survive, 2, to pass down those genes. That's really it. Now, mind you, life is way more than that. than those 2 things, but that's why cortisol really gets a chance to kind of take over everything in the body. So I feel like that's so often, cortisol can deregulate progesterone, estrogen, testosterone, thyroid, insulin. I mean, all of it can go imbalanced if cortisol is off. So I love oils because oils have been researched to lower serum cortisol levels. You can actually, so what happens when we're feeling perceived stress, we upregulate that axis that I talked about. And the more that we continue to upregulate it, we start to break the system. We start to continue to pour cortisol through, and it starts to create that chaos that women begin to feel. We've got to figure a way to kind of bring that back down, that process that's happening in the brain, that neurological pathway that keeps getting refired over and over again. Because the less stress resilience you have, the more you feel you continue to create that less stress resilience. It just kind of is this domino effect. So we got to get back to here, what's going on in that perception. And oils, if you've got an oil, let's say I call it like my Stress Be Gone blend, which is just a roller like this, 20 drops of lavender and bergamot, just those 2 oils, and you put them on your palms, because the fastest way to breathe it in, if it's in a roller, you put on your palms, do that, take 3 to 5 deep belly breaths. I actually have a de-stressing technique that I recommend to patients, but I can talk about that in a second if you like, but just breathing those oils in shuts it down regulates that whole process, and stops the flood of cortisol in the system. And in a matter of 60 seconds, you can lower your pulse point. You can lower your pulse. You can lower your heart rate. You can lower your blood pressure and lower your cortisol levels. And so for me, it's the most easiest emergency grab. Like when you start to, because when you're feeling stressed, either you're finding yourself being a little bit more snippy snappy, or your heart is racing a little bit, or you can sense that feeling like something isn't right. That is when you grab the oil. So I carry my stress oils with me everywhere because I have I feel like I have a little bit of a higher propensity for stress. So I think that's why I kept getting in trouble all those years. So I keep that oil close, and so I know my triggers. I always say that the unexpected solution to radical self-healing is awareness. If you know when you're feeling stress, or when your body isn't right, you can then begin to make healthy lifestyle choices to protect yourself. So if indeed, it's no surprise that all of the women in my family have the same hormone issues. It's because we all act the same way. I mean, it's the way that we are. And so I just set, all of my family, all the women in my family all have these oils because I want us to be ready for those moments and to be set up for success. So I always say that I'm my mother's daughter because, we act the same way.
So what's this practice that you have that you teach people in order to deal with stress?
So here is the technique. So it calls the power of the pause. And the great thing about the power of the pause is that the purpose is it's supposed to take you from sympathetic to parasympathetic. So from fight or flight, clutch the pearls, moments to relaxation. And it's really about shifting those neurological pathways. Because if your brain is trained to constantly fire like there's an emergency and you got to clutch those pearls, then you're going to keep finding yourself in a state of chronic stress. So you want to change the way that goes. So how this technique works is you grab an oil, usually a calming oil. Let's just use lavender because everyone loves it. So grabbing lavender, put a drop of lavender on our palms, rub our palms together because I want to get that topical experience too. Let's get them in the system that way. Then you're going to take a deep breath and you're going to hold it for 5 seconds on the top and then breathe it on out. And on the bottom breath, like when you breathe out all the stress, all the worry, all the concern, you're going to hold it for 5 seconds there. So you're going to count down 5. And then you're going to breathe back in, hold it, count down 5, all the while breathing in the oils as well. And you do that 5 to 10 times. And by the time, even by the 5th breath, you have rewired the system to go back into parasympathetic. And what's so great about this technique is that over time, you will shift your stress resilience. Things that lit you up, things that rocked your world 2 months ago, it's not going to have that effect on you. You're going to change the way that your body perceives stress in the moment. And that will, in turn, lower cortisol levels, lower the way that you respond to stressors. It will change everything in that biochemistry of that fight or flight versus parasympathetic.
Do you like people to wait for the situation to come up, or do you like to have them put this into a practice on a daily, even if they don't have a stressor coming up?
I think that it's great to do it at least 3 times a day. So morning, lunch, and evening, but then also have it in your back pocket if you are feeling stressed. You know, it's such an easy thing to just stop, take a moment, and reset the system. And I think we just got to get more used to that. You know, we're not going to stop the barrage of text messages. We're not going to, you never know when your best friend's going to text you something crazy. You know, that's always going to continue to happen. You know, we were heading to Las Vegas and we were going to go see my grandparents, see my grandfather, the one who's got cancer. And I get the text message 2 days ago that he slipped in the garage and he broke his femur. And so they're not going to get to see us. And it just, and I was like, and I remember I was in the middle of meeting with one of my team members. And then I don't know why I looked at my phone. I shouldn't even have been in it. And then I get this text and my grandma's like, all systems alert, your grandfather just broke his femur. And like, it's not good. These things can't keep happening because, we're really worried. And so, you have to that moment is like the first thing you think, you're like, okay, so-and-so, I got to go make this call. I got to call my grandma. My grandfather's hurt and now we can't see them. We got to change our hotel plans, our flight plans. Everything's got to change, all like that. Right. And so it kind of puts you in that space where you feel anxious. You feel like, oh shoot, like everything just kind of fell apart. And so those are those moments where it's really wonderful that you've got these techniques up your sleeve, because those things are going to happen. Those external factors are going to come in. How you manage those moments are really how we dictate the way our health is defined.
And is there more to the complete self-care that you talk about?
Absolutely.
Goes into that?
Oh yeah, self-care. Yes. I mean, I think the first step in self-care is really the belief that you deserve it. I feel like with women in particular, I know I myself, the reason why I got sick is I was brought up in this beautiful Latina family, but I was brought up that my worth was predicated on how much I did for everyone else in the family, how much I did for everyone else in general. Like if you look at the list of people I took care of, I was not on that list. I was never on the list. You could not find me anywhere, not even on the bottom. So we really shifting that belief in self-care is so important. But then I'm a big proponent of having a morning routine and an evening routine. I think how you start the day and how you end the day is so critical. One of my favorite quotes is by Louise Hay that says, how you start your day is how you live your life. And it's so true. And I remember growing up and I was like a Tasmanian devil on lipstick, like just running through the house, like barely getting clothes on, and it was just chaos. And it felt like chaos the rest of the day. Bad decisions were made in terms of my health, eating things that weren't serving me. So I think when you take the time to make yourself the priority first, we are so much more productive. We are so much more well-intended in terms of what we want to do with our day. We set the tone for what we want. And for me, that is gratitude journaling. For me, that's using my oils every morning, wild orange and peppermint to wake up my brain and oxygenate my lungs. It's drinking 16 to 20 ounces of water every morning before I even eat anything. It's taking my supplements. It is moving my body through yoga or through taking a walk outside, because I can do that in San Diego right now. And so it's all of these things that I do every morning. It takes about a half hour or so, but it just, my day is so much better. It's so much, I feel like I have ownership of my day. And the second we get into our phones or into our email, literally we are someone else's priorities. We whatever you thought you were going to do for you, it's gone. So morning and evening routines, so important.
I couldn't agree more. I have morning and evening routines myself, and I think that I have a lot that I could learn from you. So this is really interesting stuff. I wanted to touch on sugar, though. I mean, I think that so many people, in my opinion, have these issues with sugar and sugar cravings and whatnot. So I'd really love to hear what your thoughts are on that and how people can work through it.
Well, I just told you what my thoughts were on that. I feel, oh man, sugar is the devil. I always tell people, I always say that sugar is the bad boyfriend that your mama told you never to date, and yet you keep on going back to him. That's what sugar is. And he's got tattoos and he's on the motorcycle, all that. So, although my husband has tattoos and so do I, but so sugar. So, goodness, sugar will get you in just as much trouble as perceived stress. A chemical stressor like sugar. I think about things like Alzheimer's and and dementia being stage 3 diabetes. Sugar is really what's killing us more than anything. And we use sugar for a lot of, not only is it addictive, but we often are craving it because of so many other things going on in our life. Stress, exhaustion. I know sugar was my go-to exhaustion. When my mama was growing up, because she's like me, she went to work and she would have a coffee cup, literally like this, a coffee cup filled with coffee and another one filled with peanut M&Ms. And this is how she did her day every single day for years, right? And I mean, I think there's a lot of people who can relate to that. I cannot imagine surviving on peanut M&Ms and coffee every single day. Oh my goodness. Sugar is something else. I'm not eating any sugar at the moment. I go through many bouts of not eating sugar, but it is definitely an epidemic in its own right. And one of the things I love about oils, because I got a cure-all for that sugar craving, is literally oil. So research has demonstrated that peppermint and grapefruit essential oil are not only appetite suppressants, and not to say that one should be using those for appetite suppressants, but they are what they are. So they are appetite suppressants, but they're also craving suppressors, major craving suppressors. So I always tell people, I always tell people to make up a blend. You can make up a roller, 20 drops of each, top it off with fractionated coconut oil and have it on hand. You can make up a pre-made blend of grapefruit and peppermint oil, in a bottle like this, just kind of this size, and have it so you can put it one drop in a 20-ounce container of water. And if you're sipping on that or you're using that during those moments of a sugar craving, you can overcome it. You can crush that craving right then and there. So that would be my solution for sugar cravings. But if you want me to go into sugar, I can go into sugar more than that. But I just wanted to give someone something, and the thing of it is, I always say cravings are an unmet need. They're never, your liver never said it wanted that sugar or that candy bar. Your liver's what do I have to do to break that stuff down? Does not want that job. And so I always say it's either boredom or exhaustion or it's emotional or it's stress. It's usually one of those things, right? And, a craving usually lasts about 3 minutes, give or take. The danger zone of that craving is 3 minutes. You just have to get through that danger zone. And oils are one of the best techniques, one of the only things that I know that can literally subside a craving that comes out of nowhere.
Interesting. So I've learned and talked to a lot of people about habits. So do you have, you get this sugar craving, do you try and replace that habit of going to the sugar with an oil or that's in your water, or do you have any kind of system like that?
Yeah, so it's really about, instead of grabbing that kind bar, that's my sugar. I mean, that's the I don't even allow kind bars in the house, but let's say my husband sneaks a kind bar in. Like no one wants to come to my house. Like you're not going to find anything in his house. So I don't believe that we have enough willpower to keep it in the house. And I am one of the most disciplined people you'll ever meet. My husband, not so much. He really struggles with the discipline. I could walk right past ice cream. I could walk right past that cupcake and not even flinch, and that's not for everybody. But, my husband tends to sneak things into the house, and usually it's a kind bar. It's usually the one thing I'll like, okay, you can have that. But right now there's no kind bars in the house, but let's just say it's the kind bar, it's 3 p.m. You're trying to grab for that sucker. And instead we always have oils at our desks. So I always have oils at our workstations. We have oils in the kitchen. So we literally have set our house up or our office up so that we will grab the oil first. So the second I start to feel a craving, I don't go into the kitchen. I don't go anywhere near it. I just grab my oil, take some deep belly breaths, and just let myself reset. Other ways that you can set yourself up for success for sugar is always making sure that you're eating protein in every meal, right? Making sure that you're feeling full. The other thing is a big one is just finding ways to distract yourself from craving. So if you get a craving, instead of heading to the kitchen or heading to the office, rec room or whatever that is, you just go outside or you do a lap around or you call a friend or you listen to a song that you love, like whatever it is, that's your key distraction. That's going to be huge. And then also I'm a big fan of someone just doing a journal inventory for 7 days of what you eat. And what I'm really looking for there is you recognizing your triggers. Where is that where are you cheating? Is it 3:00 every single day? Is there a French bakery that opened up, a block and a half away from your office between that and Pete's? Because that's what happened to me. That's when I knew where my sugar trigger, my moment was. And so you'll start to recognize in that 7-day journal, okay, where is it that is it like 10 p.m. you're watching The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, which I'm watching right now, season 2. Is that when you cheat? Like, when is it? So that you begin to recognize your triggers and you have an oil in front of you at all times, right?
Yeah. I love it. If people were interested in, diving into the oils, what do you recommend to them? Should they come and see someone like you and get a whole life system for themselves? Or do you recommend that they, buy a couple of blends, or how do you approach that? If they're listening to this, they're like, what's their next step?
Yeah, I would say, it's good to have, that's a great question. And I don't, no one's ever asked me that before. Clearly they can find someone like myself. And, what I do is so often as I look at what's going on, someone tells me their biggest concerns. And I say, okay, well, if this is the solutions you're looking for, let's start with these 4 oils that are addressing these particular problems. However, you can, like I said, I mentioned those top 5 that really just solve a lot of those concerns. A lot of people come to me because they want to create a non-toxic home. They don't want to use chemicals anymore. We're finding our lives aren't better by chemicals. And, so often people are like, well, what are the top 5 that I can use to just kind of do an overhaul in the home? And that's why I wrote my first book, The Smart Mom's Guide to Essential Oils. And it wasn't just for moms, because I'm not a mama, and so I just kept letting people know that. And a lot of people think I am because I wrote the book. And no, it was just, we wanted to make over our home. I wanted to get rid of those endocrine disruptors that were messing with my hormones. And I wanted a safer solution that felt right, that wasn't going to over time wreck my liver and create inflammation in the body. And so the Smart Mom's Guide to Essential Oils really gives me it's a top 25 list. It tells you how to use the top 25 oils. That's a great reference guide to start. It deals with any kind of concerns around safety or how to use them. And then it goes into how do you make over the medicine cabinet? How do you make over the cleaning cabinet? How do you make over your personal care? And then I have a whole chapter on self-care rituals that I love and relish. And so that's a good start. If you're looking for, and it's like $10 on Amazon or something like that. But just grabbing those top 5 oils, clearly you'll need to know how to use them. I do have a lot of great information on my website, like literally how to use those 5 oils and to kind of get yourself started in that direction.
Okay, great. And if people want to find out more about you and obviously like get their hands on some of these books or follow you, get started, how do they do that?
Absolutely. So I have a podcast as well. It's called Essentially You Podcast. And it's all about becoming the CEO of your own health. So giving people the tool sets to really create those healthy habits. I do have a new book coming out. It's called The Essential Oils Hormone Solution. So if it was someone looking for hormone remedies, It's right here, baby. And then the last place on Instagram, I'm always sharing recipes and fun tips and all kinds of goodies. And it's just Dr. Mariza, DrMariza at Dr. Mariza. So on Insta.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, I've had fun talking with you today. And anybody that wants to get a hold of any of these links that Mariza is talking about, you can get to them. Let's say you're driving, go to allaroundjoe.com/173. That's allaroundjoe/170, allaroundjoe.com/173. And Mariza, I really appreciate it. This has been super fun to learn more about oils, and I'm going to have to get myself started as well, because I think that it's very interesting and it makes so much sense. So,
well, I love them for marathoners. A little peppermint oil when you're running is just amazing.
Oh, we could have a whole nother podcast on how to use
them on athletes all the time.
Jeez. All right. Well, we might have to set that up for the future. All right. Well, thank you so much. I hope that you have a great day and enjoy that rain in San Diego, right?
Absolutely. Thank you. Yes.
All right. We'll talk to you soon. That was my interview with Dr. Mariza Snyder. If you guys would like to get to the show notes to check out any of the links, any of the books that she talked about, any of the products that she talked about, etc., go to allaroundjoe.com/173. That was some great stuff. If you guys need to get your body back in line, like, shoot, y'all know that I have needed to do that in the past. So head over to allaroundjoe.com/173 to get all the information. I know I'm going to start looking more and more into essential oils for myself, get them diffusing into the van or having them on hand here to start doing some really interesting stuff. I really love the idea of going from sympathetic to parasympathetic with the breathing techniques as well as the oils there, so that we can help our bodies to recover faster. That's what I was thinking about while she was talking about it. How can I make myself recover faster? And that's one of those things that I'm going to start doing for sure. So like I said, if you guys want to get at the show notes, go to allaroundjoe.com/173 and you will get all of the goods there from my podcast with essential oils expert Dr. Mariza Snyder. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed this show. If you have any questions, just drop them down below wherever you're watching or listening to this, and we'll see you soon. The All Around Joe podcast, we optimize your human performance from my personal experience as an athlete, coach, and all-around self-improvement junkie. I will see you on the next podcast.